NBA trade deadline going to be here before we know it, and coming up on today's show, are the Sixers going all in going into the deadline? Recent reports suggest that Daryl Morey is looking to upgrade this Sixers roster in a big way. Thanks for watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Do apologize for the gap in coverage, but over the last couple of days, since Friday actually, been in Houston covering the college football playoff national championship between Washington and Michigan. Jim Harbaugh able to get the victory, but now we're back in the Chat Sports studios, so let's talk some Sixers. This report coming from ESPN's Brian Windhorst, and it certainly caught the eye of yours truly as well as producer Chip, because so far the Sixers have been able to stand pat. You look at a team like the New York Knicks, they traded for OG Anunoby, and now New York 5-0 since that trade, and I think that puts pressure on the Sixers, especially after losing by a lot to the Knicks the other night, to make a deal to improve this roster, because other teams are improving in the East, other teams are improving in the West, and if they're not improving, they're certainly looking at doing so. This is what Windhorst had to say, that the only contender in the top three of the standings I can confidently forecast will be aggressive, it's Philadelphia. It can make multiple deals. How can the Sixers make those deals, and what does this entail? We're about to get to that here on the show. But first, if you want the Sixers to make a big trade, I think they need to. I've said, wait it out, see how this team performs, and then assess from there. They look to be one dude short. So if you want Philly to make a big trade, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon like the video. If not, and you'd rather see the Sixers team stand pat, I want you to comment why. Multiple deals is certainly key. And you think about the verbiage there. Are the Sixers going to go after a star player? If that's the case, that's probably one deal. Are they going to look to round out this roster with a couple of other pieces to allow Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid cook? Then that would be multiple deals. It sounds like the Sixers want an all-star caliber player and another rotation piece or two, and maybe they don't go after the marquee star. If they do go in on Zach LaVine, I know Philadelphia is a little bit split on that. I wouldn't like that move because I'm not sure he's a winning player, and he takes shots away from Maxey and Embiid. I think he clogs up the offense a little bit, but do you need a microwave scorer like that who can win you some games in the NBA playoffs? That is interesting, certainly. What can the Sixers give up? Who can they pursue? That's obviously a really big part of this conversation. If they want to go after a player like LaVine after trading away James Harden, the Clippers, by the way, playing good hoop over the last month and change, then they now have the assets to improve this roster. The Sixers trade assets. Let's begin there. You can match large salaries with Tobias Harris, who's checking in at $39 million on that expiring, or a combo of a couple of different players where you add those up. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University, but I can do the math here. Robert Covington, $11 million, Nicolas Batum, $11.7, and then Marcus Morris at $17.1. You add those deals up, and you trade those contracts away in a two-teamer, a three-teamer, then you can absorb the deal of a star player. In terms of young assets, this is somewhat interesting here because Philadelphia doesn't have a ton of young players who I think are really going to move the needle. Nick Nurse even said that in order for Jaden Springer to go from getting spotty minutes, inconsistent minutes, to being more a part of this rotation, needs to shoot the basketball a little bit better. He hasn't been able to do that, like the athleticism, like the defense, like the effort plays, but needs to be able to knock down threes. That's a former first-round pick, still young with some pedigree. And then KJ Martin, you know, he's a guy who can give you 11, 12 points per game, but he's just not a part of this rotation either. So those are your low-salary young assets, but neither all that high in value. Where the Sixers can kind of move the needle, though, with some of these trade conversations is with a lot of the draft capital that they were able to receive. And the Sixers do have that draft capital. They're tradable first-round picks. If a team trades away a marquee player and they're looking to rebuild, like maybe the Chicago Bulls, although they've played better since trading away Zach LaVine, these are some of the picks that the Sixers could deal away to appease a team. They have the Clippers' first-round pick in 2026, two of them, in fact. You have a 2028 Clippers first-round pick, and then the Sixers' own first-round pick that same year, a pick swap with the Clippers in 2029, and then a 2030 first-round pick. The Clippers clearly went all in trading for James Harden. It was ugly at the beginning. After Harden first joined the Clippers, they've been much better since. And they figured to be a solid team in 2026, although things can flip on its head very, very quickly and things can change fast. So that might not be a massive selection in 2026 as far as lottery implications go, but they're first-round picks nonetheless, and other teams can use those first-round picks and couple those with their own to try to make some deals in the future. Now, coming up next here on the show, who are some of the players that the Sixers could target going into the trade deadline? Stay tuned for that. But first, today's show is sponsored by Factor Meals. Get 50% off when you use the code NBAChat50. Get started here in 2024 so that you're ready for this year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning, and it sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart all of your resolutions. When things get hectic, Factor is flexible. You can change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Stress less over meal times in the new year. Factor's no prep, no mess meals free up time otherwise spent shopping, cooking, cleanup, and all of that stresses us out. No more wasting time in the kitchen. So you pick your pre-made meals. They are prepped and cooked to perfection. You heat them up, enjoy them, and it only takes a couple of minutes to heat them up. FactorMeals.com/NBAChat50. Link is hanging out and kicking it in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. Let's take a look at some Sixers trade targets here next. You first look at some star trade targets. These are some of the upper echelon players who could be made available. Lauri Markkanen checking in at $17 million per year. He'd be a really, really good piece for a Utah Jazz team that did beat Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center last week. Pascal Siakam said to be available. I'm not sure I love the contract there, though. I'd rather have Lauri Markkanen. I think he's a better, more efficient player who I think moves the needle a little bit more, and it's less expensive. You have Dejounte Murray. I love the value of that contract right there. Can play on ball, off ball a little bit. So Tyrese Maxey can play on ball, off ball. Also a very good defender. And when you get a player who can give you 20 points per game and high-level defense, he's been an all-NBA defender, $17.7 million. Nice. And then Zach LaVine, microwave score, can pour it up. And he's been able to score the basketball at will, especially in some of these play-in games for Chicago. So he clearly doesn't back away or fear the big stage like a Ben Simmons, the fraud who's only played in 6 games this year, but $40 million for him, and I'm not sure about the offensive fit. Let's go back to Brian Windhorst here. If you ask executives around the league, Siakam, LaVine, 2 names that will immediately come up. There will probably be a February surprise that pops onto the market. There always is. There isn't a lot of star availability at the moment, but there is a long way between now and the deadline. And look, we're kicking it here on January 10th. Deadline coming up in a little less than a month. A lot of things can change. A team's play, injuries, the market. Other teams can decide to go for it or tank. A month in a basketball life, a long time. Now we go from star trade targets to other trade targets. Alex Caruso is not a star, but he might demand a star type of package because a lot of teams are looking for a combo guard who can defend combo positions. Really good, and he can knock down the 3. Dorian Finney-Smith, a wing who could guard a couple of different positions, knock down some 3 balls, and I really like his versatility. Kevin Huerter, a little bit concerned about him as far as being a starter because I think teams have understood and realized that they could target him on the defensive end of the floor. Harrison Barnes, playoff pedigree, playoff experience, a good wing who's a good 2-way player. Bogdan Bogdanovic I really like, especially as an offensive fit. Buddy Hield, I've become a little bit cool on him because He's just awful defensively, but if you're looking for a sniper, he fulfills that. Wendell Carter Jr., I don't think you need him because he's too good to just be a backup center, although I do wish that we'd get a little bit more out of Paul Reed. By the way, the 76ers put together a Paul Reed documentary, and they featured us right here on 76ers Now on that video, so go look at that. And then Tyus Jones, backup point guard, Washington Wizards. He has been so good with the Memphis Grizzlies when Ja Morant was out. In fact, they had a winning record by a wide margin, and he gets traded to Washington as part of that Marcus Smart trade. He's looking to get the hell out of D.C. That team is absolutely terrible. And if you're looking at a backup point guard who can also play alongside Tyrese Maxey, that's a winning player right there, the Dookie, who can make a couple of things happen, and I would like him as well. So with that, who is your favorite Sixers trade target? We talked about a couple of trade targets last week on a video that popped, all thanks to you for getting your trade ideas into the comment section. Drop us a name down below, and as you venture down to the comment section, please make sure you hit that sub button. This is the time of year for NBA content creators to get jacked up, and we're jacked up here going into the deadline. There's going to be a lot of trade talks and a lot of trade buzz, and we're covering all here on the show, so don't you dare miss it.